Hello, hello. Peace and love, everyone. This is I Am the Model coming back to you with another episode of Sex Talk. This is episode 20, and I have Mr. Carlson for today. Welcome. Welcome in, everybody. Just waiting for Carlson to hop on so we can get started for episode 20 of Sex Talk. We've been running this for about 4 months, I would say. I think I began in July, possibly. It's really good to be having this consistently, and I'm really happy that I've been receiving so much feedback. A lot of people who have been on the call have also asked to be on Sex Talk. So if you are also interested, then please reach out. About to join him now so that we can get this party started. I didn't accept him, so let's see this whole thing got going on. Ooh, you're unable to join. Yes, Sharif, episode 20. It's a big deal. So, Carlson, I know you're trying to send me a request, but for whatever reason, it's not accepting. So, I also sent you an invite. And if you can, there you go. Hey.
Hey, what's up? How you doing, Yana?
Good. How are
I'm
you?
good. Let me see what's wrong with this little thing right here. You can hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. Cool. Let's see what's wrong with this. All right.
Need little tiny
Hmm?
adjustments. Is there a way to tilt your camera so that we can see your face a little
I
bit
know
better?
I'm trying to figure it out right now. 1 second. I got you. That's better?
Yes, way better.
Okay. How you doing?
Good. I see a comment that's from Sade. Says, I'm here to get all the jewels to be ready, but I need to get a man talk first because it's difficult out here. I know. I'm really happy that Carlson asked to join. So thank you for asking to join. He actually requested to be on the talk. And I love when, men are very open to speak about this type of subject and to just speak openly about their own experiences, especially when something like this can be very triggering for some people and also can be very private for other people. So thank you.
Right. I appreciate you having me. And I definitely support you too as well.
Yeah,
Definitely.
that's what we do. Support. So, just to have a brief introduction and to let everyone know who you are, just briefly say, your name, briefly what you do, and then we can get started with questions.
Okay. So briefly, Carson, what I do, professional photographer based on South Florida. So that's pretty much the gist of what I do as far as that. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Carlson and I have worked together a few times, both in the last, I would say, maybe like 3 years. We worked together last year. We just worked together a couple months ago. And we always make amazing things when we work together. So I love to collaborate with him. And and I think the last shoot that we did to collaborate on, we end up kind of talking about this like slightly. I think we're talking more about like relationships in general and like connecting with people and what you can expect in relationships or what you can expect coming from a man or a woman's side when certain things work out and other things don't work out. So I think that we're kind of like on the, I guess, conversation tip of relationships in general. And I think maybe that's another reason why you're just like, you know what, maybe we can also talk about this because I think for the first time we really settled into a good conversation the last time we hung out.
That conversation definitely inspired like to do this tonight. So I was like, you know what, that little brief it's actually good, inspiring too, and definitely a different perspective on things. So I think that's what let me open up and talk a little bit more about this. It's not so bad, you know what I'm saying? So
Yes, so I appreciate it. So let's get started. And the first question I always ask everyone is, what is your relationship to sex? In whatever ways that comes off to you. It's a very broad question to just be given an answer to whoever feels like they want to answer it in whatever way they would like to answer it. So however that comes off to you, what is your relationship to sex?
I think right now my relationship to sex is more like it's as healthy as it's ever been. I can say that much. It's very healthy at this point.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is like pretty much understanding myself, taking care of myself spiritually, mentally, intellectually, all that stuff. So I think right now, my sex, like I said, it's definitely healthy as hell than it's ever been before.
What um how would you describe it before? I know that if it's the healthiest now, it was very unhealthy, but what made those things unhealthy for you in the past?
Um, all right, cool. So how the best I can explain it is for how I was introduced to sex, for example, right? So at a young age, I was introduced to sex through pornography, as most men are introduced that way. But now I gain a more different perspective on that wasn't necessarily an accurate representation of sex. So now, like, I'm more aware of that. I'm more aware of like what it like, being more intimate, things of that nature. Like, it's not just like I said, I guess like I said, the representation of sex through pornography kind of like mimic what you see, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily like that. So I think that's why I think it's more. I'm in a more healthier space when it comes to that.
When was the shift for you? When did you realize that that was like a wrong depiction of what you should be doing in the bedroom?
I want to say like I want to say like a couple years ago, but like as far as like yeah, I want to say a couple years ago.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What made this shift happen?
What shit happened? Looking back at some of my looking back at some of my I guess intercourse with different women. So I'm looking back at what was I doing? Was I like was I mimicking, like I said, mimicking what I saw at a young age, or was I really like really into this woman, really pleasing her? But I was been into pleasing a woman, but like really like understanding her body, understanding who she is spiritually, all that. So
Mm.
that kind of like made me understand, like, okay, like it's more than just sex. It's more spiritual. It's more spiritual connection as well too with it. So that's like what I mean by that. It's more of a spiritual experience and then more of a less than an intercourse or something like that. So that's what I mean by that.
Mm. What things do you feel like you need currently in order to get to the point where you're having intercourse with someone?
Sorry.
What type of things do you think that you need currently to get to the point where you're actually having intercourse with someone that you're interested in?
Oh, your vibe got to be right. Your energy. Right now. I'm very protective of my energy. I'm not going to give that to just anybody. So that's a foremost. That's a first thing that we got to like establish. Like, could I vibe with you? Could I have a conversation with you? Could I like what I'm saying, be around you? Like I said, protecting my energy. So your vibe got to be right with me. Your energy got to be right with me before I even think about intercourse with a woman.
Mm-hmm. What are some signals that the energy is right with someone? Like besides a conversation, what are some other things that signal to you that you can actually probably go further with someone?
So I'm a big I can help. I read body language. So I understand like 80% of a conversation is body language.
Mm-hmm.
So I read that up. So if you're and it's like if you're more relaxed around me, or I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about. But more relaxed around me, I see your vibe. I see like your the way your body's moving, like you're comfortable. That's like an indicator for me. Okay, it's a relaxed moment. Like we could like if that were the case, it could happen that way. But
Mm-hmm.
it's about your body too.
Mm-hmm. Nice. You mentioned that like you recognize from the past that a lot of things that you do now have to do with more intimacy than it has to do with like actual intercourse of sex.
Mm.
So, what type of intimacy do you like to engage in with someone who you are romantic with?
So obviously, like you're gonna have to like it's marinating. So what I mean by that is, for example, kissing, caressing, um, certain. You don't just pull your. Am I, you don't mind if I curse?
I don't mind.
Okay. I talk. I can't help it. You know what I'm saying my vocab's up the part, but when I really get into something, I talk. I curse a lot, so I can't help it. You feel me?
Go
But
ahead.
before I stick my dick out and try to fuck somebody, I'm gonna actually like what I mean, like caress the person, have like a kiss the person, like be more intimate with it. So I've learned that being more intimate with a woman and understanding that it's like you're marinating, you're getting her body relaxed. So that way, when you have intercourse, she's fully like engaged into it instead of just whipping your dick out and trying to fuck. That makes no
Mm-hmm.
sense. Like I said before, you're mimicking what you see on porn, but that's not the clear representation of sex or intercourse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think I often talk a lot to people about like their experiences and their journey. And a lot of times, even when it comes to women, like women also watch porn. It is the only representation of sex that's out there for real. So anyone who's trying to get any idea of what sex looks like in any way ends up going to porn.
Yeah,
And that is the issue, you know, the negative representation. Like modern day porn is very different. There's a whole lot of things that are out there. There's a whole lot of different subsections and, you know, like pieces and parts of it that you can get into that might be a better representation. Maybe there's a lot of amateur porn of people who are really in love, and so yeah, now you can see more different depictions. But I would say, you know, even 10 years ago it was just nothing there that showed, like you said, the steps, the intimacy, the connection, the closeness. And I definitely personally feel like I know I need that. So it's nice to recognize that like you've grown to that point where you're like recognizing all the things that you know that you need in a relationship. Do you think that when you were younger you had any negative um, experiences that made you feel negatively about sex?
um, I want to say not negative about sex. It's more about the byproduct of it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by that, like I said, what I said before, sex is a spiritual experience. You create life from it. So when you create life from it, me for example, I had a son. There was things that happened outside of that that I kind of like made me like there was some things between me and her, which we're good now. I can talk about it, but we're in a good, healthy co-parenting space. But before that, there was some issues at that period of time, what kind of made me like think twice about, like for example, if you have sex with this person, could you see yourself being with this person? Could you see yourself being the mother of your child or the father of your child? You got to rethink twice about that shit. Like people don't think about that. Like I don't know if people do or don't, but for me, that was a clear understanding, like perspective. Like yo, like you need to think twice about who you're having sex with. It comes down to, like I said, spirituality and also protecting your energy too. So I think that kind of had not a negative experience with it, but more of a
Caution.
caution when it comes to that. That's what I mean by
Mm-hmm. Wow, I never knew you had a child. Crazy.
that. Yeah, I got a 6-year-old man. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, that's dope. How would you, this is slightly off topic, but I guess still connected. Um, how would you say that you both grown to kind of create that co-parenting experience? Do you think that you both were um, in a space of like immaturity when that first happened, like when you first started to like engage in sex and you weren't really that mindful of what it actually was?
What you mean? Elaborate. What you mean by that? Do you mean that what happened
Like
with?
you said that you like grown to like you guys are good now, you guys are in a good co-parenting space, but one thing about sex is that you always think about, would you want this person to be the mother of a child, because you understand how serious an act could lead to a certain outcome, that outcome being a child. Do you think that you and the mother of your child were in a space before that has like grown significantly to be in a better space now for the for that co-parenting to happen? Like what things kind of have like shifted
Maturity.
for you?
Point blank period, maturity. And
Mm-hmm.
for me too, I had to realize I had to let go of certain things, certain energy too. Like for years, I had like some type of anger towards that because of situation that was happening. But I learned that before me harboring this type of energy towards you, it's not going to gain. It's not going to gain nothing. All you're doing is receiving that energy back. So I guess maturity on both ends. So I had to let go of a lot of anger, which is to me now is acting out of anger, holding that situation in. It's to me it's like low hanging fruit to me now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to hold on to that energy. I let it go. So I matured a lot with that. And then see, I kid you not, since I let that energy go, I've seen a shift in our co-parenting situation.
Mm-hmm.
So just maturity, take time, not harboring certain energy, man, letting that go, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good to hear. I'm happy for you.
Mhm.
Um, you're a Scorpio,
Yeah.
and I want to know if there has ever been any like myths or misconceptions that somebody put on you, or just based on your zodiac sign or your personality.
I mean, obviously, like what they say about Scorpios are different zodiac signs, like we're freaks or whatever like that. I don't think it's that. It's like for me, I realize I'm more open to exploring different things. So I don't know if it's called being a freak or whatever it is, but I'm just open. You know what I'm saying? So I look at it because I mean, let's keep real. It gets boring at a certain time. You know what I'm saying? So you got to spice it up, do different things. So for me, I'm just more open and free with certain things. I'm not everything now. Don't get twisted, but I'm more open to like exploring different options when it comes to like having fun in the bedroom. You know what I'm saying, like spicing it up.
Do you like to introduce things, or do you like for your partner to introduce things, or do you like it to be a back and forth type
Um,
of thing?
both, both. Yeah, you gotta be able to induce things too. You gotta bring something to the table too when it comes to like spicing up the bedroom. So yeah, both parties plays a role in like spicing things up. So yeah, I definitely introduce things. I like to be. A lot of things that I've learned were from women.
Mm.
So I'm saying that actually showed me that. And I'm, like growing up, for me, I noticed. I look back at, like I said, in the course of different women. A lot of women I was messing with, or had intercourse who were older.
Mm.
So they showed me a lot of different things. Like, okay, not every woman likes the same thing. So you gotta understand her. Like I said, pay attention to body language. She may like certain things done to her that other women don't like certain things done to her. So you got to pay attention to that. So yeah, you definitely have to like, you know what I mean,
Mm.
have that understanding of that.
Mm. Definitely. What is the biggest misconception you felt like someone had about you, about your sex life, or the way that you navigate sexually?
Elaborate on that. Give me an example on that. Let me see.
Like, so the way that I wrote the question was, what is the biggest misconception you felt you had to deal with sex wise? Like, I
Yeah.
guess, what is something that someone thought about you, about your sex life, that wasn't true, or was false, or was some type of, I don't know, generalized idea that had nothing to do with how you actually live your sex life?
Um, a past situation. They thought that I guess stagnation. I guess it was like they didn't. They assumed that it was the same routine all the time, but not realizing that I had to look at it myself, like spiritually and that person's energy. I was no longer connected with them, so it kind of hindered me from exploring with that individual because our energy wasn't right. You know what I'm saying? So they kind of like, okay, you're not doing this, you're not doing this. No matter, no, it's like I have a lot of tricks up my sleeve. I have a lot of tricks I want to show you, but your energy ain't right with me, so I can't. I'm not gonna want to like show you that because it's not. I'm saying you're doing some things that I'm not too fond of. So that's why I kind of like had a. It sucks because it shouldn't be that way, which I realize now, but it kind of hinders you from trying different things because the energy just wasn't right.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
I don't know
Yeah.
if that makes sense or answer your question, but that's the best way I can explain
Yeah,
this.
I mean, I guess that that was just like a very specific example. Like someone was probably just like, "Oh, you're the type of person that's boring. You're the type of person that doesn't do a lot. You're the type of person that doesn't really do much in the bedroom." And you're like, "No, no, no, it's just with you
Yeah.
because your energy is throwing me off, so I'm not able to show who I really am." So that answers the question because I guess they just had a misconception of who you were really, but it's because they didn't connect with you,
Exactly.
which I could speak to as well. I think that like I've had someone tell me that I didn't like sex, and I was just like, you're you don't understand me. The thing about it is, I don't think that you have to do all the time things that you like. And I feel like that's
Mm.
a very, very big misconception. I think that a lot of people assume that whatever you like, you got to do all the time, every day. And the power um, of doing things on a steady basis and making sure that you're not overindulging in something is like both discipline and also something that feeds into a healthy way to experience something. So for me, that's the idea of sex. Like I think that when people are really, really like high sex drive, that's beautiful and that's wonderful and that's fine. But when people match that high sex drive with also having a whole lot of sex and doing a whole lot of sex with a whole lot of people, that's when they're navigating out of a trauma experience or a trauma
Mm.
response. And I don't think that is necessarily healthy.
Yeah.
So I
Medicated.
think that, right. I think it's interesting when people who have a lot of sex or who want a lot of sex tell me that like I must not like it because I'm not doing it a lot. And I'm like, no, no, no. I just see it differently, or I see it more severely, or I see it more importantly for me to do it with like said person here and said person there instead of like everyone everywhere.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
responsibility. Like sex is a responsibility. It's a responsibility of power. Like I said, you create life through this. You know what I'm saying? So that's definitely like you understand that. So that's definitely good. That's why my perspective changes as well too. Like it's a responsibility I hold with that. It's a certain power you just can't get at anybody. You know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely, man. What? Let me ask you a question. Like I want to people ask you this. Like, what's your like relationship with sex right now? Where you at with it?
Okay, twisting it back on me. Um, I would say that my relationship with sex is like extremely deep and significantly selective. Like I am currently abstinent and I have been for probably like the last 6 months, and I can only imagine me continuing the abstinence like for probably another 6 months. Like, and I'm very, very comfortable being without sex for a very long time because of how much I don't even want to say value, because I think that everybody values sex, and of course, the way that they value it and the way that it is navigated in their own lives is very differently. But I will say for me, I just I need to I need sex to be transcendent and to be life changing almost. And for my body to have like a to I know that we have certain genitalia and certain areas on our body that's considered erogenous zones, like, the breast or the butt or the vulva, for women. But I want my entire body to become like an erogenous zone or an orgasmic zone. And I think that I know exactly how to get there. And I need someone who is just as invested with the time, the patience, and the consciousness that it will take for our bodies to be on that journey, for that outcome, or not to even have an outcome, for me to feel comfortable enough actually having sex with them. Like, I feel like the idea of just the regular idea of what sex is right now is so unappealing to me. I have no desire to do it at all. Like, if someone is not like on this deeper level that I'm thinking about sex on, then I'm just not interested.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Like, so what's intimacy to you?
A lot of things. Let me read this comment. It says, a friend of mine recently made the observation of chasing consistent dopamine and oxytocin as opposed serotonin, and that translates to hypersexuality in Western culture. That's interesting. I think that he's basically saying that like seeking the um chasing dopamine, chasing oxytocin, and chasing these natural chemicals that go off in our body when like something pleasurable happens or something positive happens is something that we're like kind of addicted to. I think that it goes alongside of people who are addicted to drugs and alcohol and partying and smoke, whatever it is. I feel like that addiction is you chasing like that high feeling, and sex can give you that. It naturally releases those chemicals for you. And I understand that people love instant gratification, but I am a slow work until I become gratified girl. So to answer your question, intimacy to me shows up in a lot of different ways. I see intimacy like way past physicality. Intimacy to me, because I am an energetic erotic, which an energetic erotic is just a type of archetype that was created by a somatic sexologist. Her name is Miss Jaya. She has this whole breakdown of the type of erotic person that you are. So there's about 5 different categories. One of them is energetic, there's kinky, there's sexual, there's shapeshifter, and there's sensual. I already know I'm a very sensual person, but
Yeah.
when I took her test, I found out that I'm an energetic erotic, and that blew my mind because it makes a lot of sense, but I never knew that that was my sexual archetype. So what that basically means is, for me, a lot of things have to do with whatever happens outside of the body. Like my electromagnetic energy field is what needs to be, I guess, like stimulated in order for me to get there sexually. So it has less to do with like what people I assume as sex, and more to do with like the anticipation to get to sex. So intimacy could be like someone reading to me. It can be someone like feeding me food. It can be someone staring into my eyes, like things that kind of build, I guess, more that tantalizing stabilizes more of my sensation and creates that longing experience for me to build up the momentum are things that I enjoy.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. So it's like the anticipation
Mm-hmm.
of it. I get what you're saying. Because,
Yeah,
like, for example, when you go out to eat, you're hungry as hell. You can't wait for food. You know what I'm saying? So once you get it, it's like a satisfying feeling. So it's that
exactly.
anticipation. I get what you're saying. All right, that makes sense.
And
Yeah.
because the energetic connection between me and someone else is something that I love to play in and to help grow and to build amongst, me and my partner or partners, it just makes other things that help us bond and help us get closer also become things that arouse me, because it's just creating more of a bond between me and that other person. Some people, they love physical touch and maybe quality time is not their thing. So the quality time won't really arouse them. But when someone is rubbing their arm, when they are spending quality time, is arousing them. It's like arousing them. Like I am going to be aroused just because quality time is being spent, as opposed to like us touching during quality time. I love the progression of us like probably touching during quality time, but just the quality time in and of itself is like good enough for me because it's just making me closer to this person that I enjoy being with.
I understand.
That's like what intimacy is to me.
I get what you're saying. So just by you saying that and listening to what you're saying without trying to, um, observing what you're saying, what's it saying? Observing shit. I can't pronounce the word shit, but just thoroughly listen to what you're saying. I can
Mm-hmm.
understand where you're coming from. So for me, it would be like I love a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
intimate conversation. Once I have that bond with you, I feel like that's when like it could be. I feel like once you have a stronger bond with somebody, beyond sex, it just makes it greater because you feel like you're more intimate with that person. You know that individual instead of fucking a complete stranger. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? I think that bond really plays a role in the bedroom. But like I said, everyone is different.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to see like what will make me more closer to them and them closer to me.
Mm-hmm.
So
What things for you are like some of the core bonding experiences you want to have in order to get there with someone?
like I said, first and foremost, just being able to have that conversation with you, talk to you, see where your mind's at. I'm saying, see who you are as a person, see where your energy's at. Where you at. That's to me, that's something that I feel like my core when it comes to like having sex. When I was younger, I was like doing my thing. Don't get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? But as I evolved and matured, you know what I'm saying? As a man, I understand more of like what it is that I really look for.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, for me, it's like to me, the first foremost, there has to be that conversation, like that intellect, spiritual conversation, intellectual conversation. Who you are as a person, like what do you like, what do you don't like. You know what I'm saying, so that when I'm talking to you, it's that way when we do our thing, like it's more intimate. To me. Like I know this person
Yeah.
compared to a stranger. So I think that's what it is. And if I don't fuck with your vibe, I don't fuck with you. It's point blank period.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm a sapiosexual as well. I think that like I navigate just life conversing with people and really having a strong desire for the deep connections with people. Um, I really, it's not to say that I can't do small talk, but I have grown to become like very averse to having small talk. Like I can do small talk very seldom. I can't do it all the time. I can't like do it as a majority of the things that I do. Like if I'm gonna talk to you, like I want to have some type of in-depth conversation or some type of connection where I'm getting to know something about you and your life. It's not just about the weather. It's not just about the
Yeah,
sky. It's about like
hell no, hell no.
you and your life. So
Something.
I definitely can say like the same thing for me. And then just being more energetic, like it's always about how we are connecting and how we are feeling with each other, and flowing. So
Mm,
I love that. Um, question: what is your biggest sexual fear?
damn, that's a good one. I never heard. I never asked that before. My biggest fear. Let's give me an example of that.
I honestly don't have any examples. Well, the only examples I do have are things that other people have answered as I asked them. I've had some guests say that their biggest sexual fear is not being satisfied. I had some guests saying their biggest sexual fear is um, not being listened into in the bedroom and having something happen that feels like forced, like they didn't consent to it, which is like pretty deep. Um, so it really just depends because a lot of people have different fears surrounding sex.
My biggest fear, I'll say, now that I see the example, not being able to be truly myself.
Hmm.
What I mean by that is, all right. So what I mean by that is, like, for example, I want to be completely free with my partner.
Hmm.
Like, no judgment, no craziness. No, I'm not in no crazy shit. But like I said, like, I want to be free, be open, be like myself. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I guess fear of like having to hold back.
Hmm.
But that's what I feel like. That's my biggest fear. And like I said, it goes back to the person's energy. Like I may not, your energy may not be the right person for me. And I'm holding back now. You know what I'm saying, so I don't want to be in a situation like that. I think that's about my biggest fear is like not being true and not being truly free to like be that. And I'm saying that person in the
Yourself
bedroom.
in a sexual way.
Yeah.
How many times have you how many times would you say that you have been fully yourself sexually with another partner?
It's crazy. I had a conversation with somebody. Right, there's somebody I had like we had a we had intimate intercourse like years ago. We had a conversation about it, and I think when we was talking about it, she explained to me like she felt as free as possible because I didn't pass no judgment on her. There's certain things she wanted to do, and for me as well too. So I want to say, like, honestly, a handful of people, man, that I really like felt like match my energy when it comes to sexual things and that match my energy, like a handful of people. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what I'll say. That I can't count, but I know it's not any more than 10. I'll tell you that much.
Mm, okay. Have you said you had a lot? It's very small compared to the amount of sex partners that you've ended up having like over your lifetime.
Oh yeah, yeah,
People that you can really be as free with is just not that many, like compared to the other people that you experience sex with.
yeah. That came with maturity too. That came with a lot of maturity on my part. Like I said, misrepresentation of sex through pornography, and I realized that no, that's not how it works. You know what I'm saying? So I had to mature from that. So I guess once I changed that, tapped into that, I guess that kind of like changed my whole like sexual experience with certain women.
Mm.
Like, what about you? Let me ask you that.
My biggest sexual fear. Hmm. I honestly never really thought about it. I I guess there's a lot of things to be fearful of. I don't necessarily know if I have any. I think about it in the same way that I think about like getting married, for example, because I have been talking about marriage a lot. I would say this year in particular, and like I've never talked about being married before. And like when I
Yeah.
was in college, I like didn't even believe in marriage, like the institution of marriage. I was like, oh my god, this is terrible. I don't know if I want that. But I think that I have grown to understanding the pure bond and love of an intimate union that is very true and committed on both ends is something that is unbreakable and completely and totally like unshattering. And so when I get to a space where I'm having sex with someone, it's almost as if like those things, even if they haven't been heavily established for a very long time, they exist. And there's almost nothing that can really happen between me and the person who I have chosen to do this thing with, um, that can kind of be negative in that way. Because I've screened them for so long, or because I've made sure that the connection that we had is such a strong connection, or because we've had such a strong bond, or because we built something for, you know, over time, I feel like by the time we get to the space, there's not that much I can fear about where I am with this person now that we are having sex. So I don't know. In a way, it's kind of like, do I even have a fear if I get to that point? But I guess hypothetically, I would be fearful of someone who um, does not, what you call it, respect me to the point where they don't care about consents and they don't care about my well-being and they don't care about my health and they don't
Hmm.
care about like my body. Like that's like a very big fear for me, but I don't ever imagine someone who I am having a connection with to be in that vibe at all. But I would
Yeah,
say that that's like a an objective fear of mine.
I get what you're saying. As long as you keep your screening process intact, you know what I'm saying? I think it'll avoid that. That's why it comes with those barriers, those boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to like, the screening process of who you'll be intimate with and who you wouldn't be. So it kind of avoids situations such as what you just explained to me. So that's actually good. Hmm.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna say that like there are certain things that don't pop up and don't surprise certain people, but I do believe that when something does happen, there is even the smallest inkling that gives us a note that something is wrong. And I think that a lot of times we either ignore it or we are not tapped in enough with ourselves because of whatever circumstances that allow us to not be true to those voices that let us know what's happening. Because I think that almost at all times our energy is letting us know what's going on, and our waves are flowing and bouncing off of things, and we're always in the know. Like whether we listen to the knowledge is one thing, or whether we even have the skills to tune into the knowledge is another thing. But I think that like our intuition is always working. So I agree with you. I think that like just screening and just making sure that that process is happening is just like a positive thing.
Yeah, man. Like I said, responsibility, and also that too is like time. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's no point in squandering time with an individual. And I'm saying that's like time consuming. So with the screening process, understand like, hey, do I want to fuck this person or not? Nah, you're cool and all, but I'm gonna categorize you in this because also too, there's nothing wrong with platonic friends as well.
Mm-hmm.
Who you would be platonic with and who like you can see yourself like having an intercourse with. So that's part of the screening process as well too. There's plenty of women I'm talking to that we have the greatest conversations, but we're just platonic friends, and I understand why I keep them. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So definitely understand that's part of like my screening process as well too. Like understanding that
Yeah.
that's actually dope.
I was just having a conversation with my friend because she was talking about someone recently who she is engaging in, and she's trying to kind of detach herself from her expectations with that relationship.
What do you mean?
And I was saying that I am in a space right now where I am not initiating anything with anyone, and it's not to like play games or to have them do things first. Like it's not about like a tit for tat. It's really about matching whatever energy is given to me, because I don't want to force my liking on someone else to like me. Like that's not the space that I'm in. Like I'm not in that space. I have no desire to be in that space. And admittedly, I have before where like I thought someone wasn't ready for something, and then I like talked to them and expected them to be truthful enough or mature enough to let me know that they were not ready. But of course they weren't mature enough, and I knew that. But it was just like this whole thing that required me to put out a lot of energy. And I don't fault me or that person for however that worked out or didn't work out. But it is true for me now that like I do have two crushes, and both of these individuals have one I have a pretty good rapport with, where if I text this person or call this person, I don't feel no way about texting or calling this person. I know that it will be reciprocated. And the other person, I think that I'm in the very, very beginning stages of like connecting with them, but like they have initiated us hanging out, us going on a date, us doing this, doing that. And then I can meet that, and I can match that, but I'm not going to create that and try to make something happen where I don't know if it exists or not. Um, so I think with what you are, just mentioned about platonic relationships, I'm in the space where I'm just building with people who want to spend time with me. Like, I know that I am popular in a lot of people's eyes. I think that there is definitely a like star factor in a lot of people's experiences when it comes to me. So maybe like the fact that people just want to hang out with me is something that's cool for a lot of people, but that's not what I want. Like, I want you to like me, like my personality, like to hang out with me. If you get nothing but just me in the space with you and us spending time, like that should be something that's very valuable to me. I want very valuable to the other person. Like, I want someone to have that value when it comes to me. And that navigating through that is the only way that's going to, I think, develop into something romantic and develop into something sexual in the long run. Like if you can't even be cool with just wanting me around, I'm not going to understand if your end goal is just sex, you know, if the initiative is just to do the sex thing, if like you're working this hard just to have sex, and then you're only working hard only to have sex, and you're working hard to do nothing else unless sex is on the table. Like those type of things, they're not fears for me, but those are things I'm just uninterested in when it comes to connecting with you, with the person that I'm, you know, attracted to in a romantic way. Now, if we're just getting together and we're cool and we end up just being friends, then, you know, it is what it is. But for people who I can tell like me more than just a friend, like I'm going to need them to be friend zone, you know, in a way, for me to at least build that rapport, for me to be like, okay, well, this person really does like love who I am, and I have learned to love who they are. So now we can grow and love beyond like this space or this dynamic.
And just listen to what you're saying, man. The first thing I could think of when you say that, it just hit me with like an epiphany. Like, for example, back to what I said, responsibility when it comes to sex, the power of sex, being responsible with it. Like, for example, a guy like have sex with a woman, right? In his mind, like he just busted nut, he's cool, whatever, you vibing, but her head is like, this is my boyfriend, I'm getting married, this and that. Like, you know what I'm saying? So she has a whole story in her head, like she's like coming up with, like he's like, nah, I just knocked it down, whatever, cool, whatever, like that. Now I understand y'all on two different book pages, not even the same page, different books. You know what I'm saying? You gotta understand that, be understand wary of that, and being understand like, hey, listen, it's not just sex, like it's more to it. But I think that's when having that conversation with that person and seeing like, what are you cool with? What do you want from this? You know what I'm saying? Be truthful with it. You know what I'm saying? So that way, if that was a situation where, let's just say I have an agreement, right? That we're just gonna be friends, whatever like that. We're gonna friends with benefits, it's cool, whatever. We have the agreement, we talked about it. So now if that was a situation where you were to catch feelings, it's not a situation where you feel the person feel like this person manipulated me. We go to that back to our conversation, like, hey, we talked about this. So now it's up to her to be like, okay, you're right. We had a conversation about her or him. I'm saying, 'cause we're both ways. You know what I'm saying? So we had a conversation about it. So either we could understand it or we could just leave it alone and move forward. So that's when like that, having that conversation, having that dialect of where we stand with this is very important, which I don't feel a lot of people have. You know what I'm saying? It's out in the open. So like you said, like to me, just hearing you say that, an individual woman could be thinking a picket fence and marriage and all this other thing, but this man just like just chilling, having fun. So I think that's what like conversation people need to have with each other.
Yeah, I agree. I think that like, yeah, I agree. I think that the conversation is important. I think that like the issue, well, there's a lot of issues that come up when it comes to this type of thing, to be honest. And I
What's
can't
the
even like,
issue?
I can't
What's my
even like pinpoint an issue, to be honest. Like I'm trying to be like, well, the issue about it is, but it's like there's so many circumstances with so many people that come up in so many ways where a conversation is had about what they have going on, about the dynamic that they have, and then something might shift or something might change or feelings might develop. But like my response to that would be like, it's not surprising when this is a spiritual emotional act. Like people are always shocked when feelings develop. I told her not to catch feelings. Surprise, motherfucker! Like this is an emotional act. Like you're acting like feelings are not supposed to like come up, or she acting crazy now because she got the D. Yeah, because there was an intimacy with her body that happened, and now there's something going on. So I feel like the idea that is so trivial is just something that I have just grown to reject over time. Like it's so not trivial, you know, and it's so understandable how you can develop something emotional based on the fact that the way your bodies are interacting is inherently an emotional act. Like you can do it and be detached emotionally, but I feel like there's something mentally wrong with you if that's happening. Not to say that you are not so set in your body that you can feel certain things very physically and not have to connect your emotion to it. Because I understand that for a lot of people, they have a lot of physical energy that they must release with the act of sex. And so it's not really like a whole mental thing. Sometimes it really is a physical thing for them. And I definitely understand that. It's not the same for me, but I totally understand that. But I think that like when people have that issue with like, oh, we said we weren't going to get in our feelings and one person's in their feelings, I think that
no. not saying that. You're gonna get in your
Yeah,
feelings. Like,
yeah. I'm just
oh,
saying that, like,
oh yeah,
I know that that conversation or like that piece or that line has been like said before. And I think it's always funny when people are shocked when like it's emotional. Like it's sex, it's emotional. Of course it's emotional, you
yeah,
know. So of course emotional things are gonna come up when those things happen. Like
yeah. I'm
it's
just saying you got to age when it comes. Understand the
yeah.
responsibility.
Y'all need to be
You know
conversing about
what I'm
whatever
saying?
those emotions might be, for sure.
Had that
Mm-hmm.
conversation first before you get into that. They don't just assume that okay, it's all good. Like I said, in his head, he thinks it's all good, but in her head, she's thinking, like I said, she's a wife. I'm saying she has a whole story in her head. So have that conversation, talk about it, to see where you stand with that before you even get engaged in any type of sexual intercourse with anybody. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? So I definitely feel what you're
I
coming
agree.
from with
I
that.
think the first step is the conversation.
Oh yeah,
Conversation should be honest, even though it not always is.
and
Um,
gonna bullshit you. You know that shit.
right. You know, they're gonna try to get what they want, which is another reason why, like, it's funny too, because one of my friends who I actually did sex talk with, she talked about her process of, you know, dating men or men becoming her boyfriends. And she talked about how it takes a long time for her to get to the point where she's having sex with them. And I'm like, see, that idea of like, oh, it takes a long time is just like, it should be seen as like the natural time frame it should take for you to get to know somebody. Like, you don't know somebody short term. And even if you go off of energy and vibes, which I am all about, like, as much as I am an abstinent person today, if somehow somebody has the amazing vibes tomorrow and I just so happen to do that, I go with energy. So it's nothing for me. But I'm just saying, like, I do understand how long it takes for certain things to be built and for people to be committed to building that, you know. And yeah, again, I think the conversation just needs to be
yeah.
had. Um, hmm, hmm, hmm.
What's your next question?
Have you explored sensuality?
Explain that to me. Explain that to me.
So when I usually like ask like, okay, what do you define as sensuality? A lot of people mention, well, everything about the senses like smell, taste, touch, sight, hearing. And a lot of times when you are more sensual or you're engaging in things that are more sensual, you are just heightening or I guess stimulating those senses. So if you are like rubbing on someone's skin, then you are, you know, engaging in the sense of touch. If you are eating food, you're engaging into the sense of taste, like smelling someone's cologne. And when you hug them, it's like engaging into the sense of smell. So what um what about sensuality can you say you have kind of engaged with or explored with someone who you're interested in romantically, and like what type of sensual things do you like to do with them?
All right. So for me, honestly speaking, I want to say for me it's touch. It will be touch. How's the best I explain to that? Smell. I don't know what you mean by smell. Like I don't
Do you
smell nobody.
like the smell of your partners, or do you notice the smell of your partners? Do you notice when someone has how they smell when they take a first shower, like their natural smell? Do you like when they wear certain perfumes or oils? Like is smell something that like catches your attention?
I'll say, yeah. Okay. Now that I could say I could see something like that. Yeah, I could see I could smell somebody can make me like, oh, that smells good as hell on you. Like it kind of like because smell is a sense of hormones, so
Mm-hmm.
it triggers something in your synapses to like, okay, like it's weird, but it's part of your hormones too. So I can understand when it comes to smell. But I'll say like for me, it would be like touch. I say touch would be more of like what I like. But like I said, it's just I, I've learned so much about myself in these past. I want even like past couple months. Really, it's really about like your vibe, man. I don't know how to explain it, man. It's hard to explain to, but it's your vibe. But touch definitely plays a big part of my like me like being turned on by somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Well, let's say someone vibe is like right and perfect for you, and you two are like ready to be intimate and ready to be more sensual. What type of things do you like in that space when like everything is lining up for you?
Okay. All right. You want to break down like everything, like go in detail?
However you want to do it, I'm here for it.
Okay, sorry. So things I like, for example, like I said, back to I said marinating. Like you don't just whip your dick out and start fucking. So you start kissing, you start caressing. For me, I like giving a woman head.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, I guess that's when smell comes in well too. But
Yeah, and taste.
yeah, taste too. You gotta understand, like women, I want women to know your pH balance. That plays a
Mhm.
big role on the smell. If your pH balance over, if your pH balance over like 7, it could create a sense of smelly smell to it. What I'm saying, so I think that would come to it. But like to me, it's like I I like to make sure I please a woman. You know what I'm saying, I like to know my woman is pleased by me, like what I'm doing. So if I'm kissing her, caressing her, and also like I said, giving head to her, like that's something that I like to do to make sure she's pleased. So I don't know if that answer your questions, but to me, that's kind of like what it is.
I feel you. Are there other things intimately that are outside of touch that you like to do? Or do you think that one of the biggest things that you like to do the most has to do with like touching the skin?
Um, Good question. Hmm. Outside of touch, really? What do you mean? Like, you mean when it comes to the senses or just in general?
Like what other things that you like to do either sensually or intimately that have nothing to do with touch when you are interested in someone?
That's a good ass question. I never really thought about that, to be honest with you. I never really thought about that. Something that I would like to do that outside of touch that I like. I would say that to best answer that question, I would say it goes back to play, it goes back to touch, well, being playful. Like, I mean, that it goes back to well too. So just joking around, like things of that nature, laughing. I think laughter, joke with your partner, laugh with your partner, it creates a sense of like, I don't know, like I don't think it recreates dopamine or anything, but it's like it creates a.
I think it does
Hmm?
actually. I said I
It
think it
does.
does.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So something like that, like having fun with your partner, laughing and joking. I feel like that's more of like a outside of touch that I would, you know, I like. What
Hmm.
about you?
Interesting. I would say that yeah, that's it too. I think when I mentioned earlier about like eye gazing is like a really big one for me.
What is eye gazing? Let's elaborate to it. So I feel like this
Literally
be like,
staring into your partner's eyes and not weird like this,
I'm like,
but
what the hell?
literally just like just looking at them for an extended period of time, more like a longer time than people are actually comfortable staring.
Oh,
Um, I think that like there are very few the same handful of times that you can experience like someone accepting you for who you were and allowing you to just be free in the bedroom. I would say a handful of times I've been able to really have eye gazing and experience like that intimacy with like my eyes with someone else on the level that I think made us more intimate and made us closer. But it hasn't happened a whole lot of time, but it has happened and it's always like very, very intense for me, I would say.
hmm.
So stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, that's interesting. I've never heard that before, but that's actually dope.
Mhm.
That's interesting.
Like it's not, I actually just shared a post on my story that talks about the importance of eye contact when you're having sex. And there's a whole lot of different benefits to it. But I think that, like, well, it makes you more present for one,
Mm.
it makes you more connected because you're more present. It makes you get out of your head because you might be, well, not necessarily say it makes you get out of your head, but it can make you feel more confident because when someone is looking at you, there is a sense of desire that you feel from the person looking at you where you're not confused whether they're into this or not. Like someone is literally staring you in the face. Like, no, you're not wondering like whether or not they're here with you there. It's kind of like a very presence building exercise, I feel. um Also there's like mutual masturbation, which I don't know if you ever done, but like having you masturbate and your partner masturbate and you might not be touching at all, but you two are staring into each other's eyes as you masturbate. Like that is something that is like very intense, and I've done it with one partner, but I literally love that. And like that is something that it still has a sexual element, of course, because you two are both doing something sexual, but because you're both doing something sexual to yourselves while staring at each other, it's almost like this transfer of energy that's happening that has nothing to do with touch and everything to do with energy. And it's very, very powerful. Um, so I would say things like that.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah. Now that I think about what you said, the whole eye engagement, it shows that the person's engaged in the
Mm-hmm.
during the process, during the experience. I would say, and just instead of your eyes closed and like what are they thinking about? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
So
mean, not only what they're thinking about, but a lot of times when people's eyes are closed, it's like, you know, they're, because staring into each other's eyes is uncomfortable. It is. Like, I become really shy, and like, it creates like this, and I have like intimacy shyness as well. Like, the closer I get with someone who I want to be romantic with, the more shy I become. And it's a steady like practice for me to be, you know, more comfortable with someone as like time moves on, and for me to laugh and talk to them and look at their eyes when I speak to them. And I've been practicing so much that it doesn't seem like an issue. People are like, you had that problem? I'm like, yeah, it doesn't seem like an issue now.
yeah,
But, you know, like years ago, it definitely was a huge issue for me. Like, I didn't even know how to express my pleasure when I was having sex or when I was experiencing pleasure. Like, I would feel weird to moan. It was very, very like weird.
you'll feel weird to
I
moan.
used to feel weird to moan. I was like so shy to like express
So what you do? You
how I was feeling. I would
quiet.
just be like uncomfortably quiet. It was very strange. Yeah, I know. But that was when I was like, that was really before I was having intercourse. Like, that
Oh,
was like, yeah, I started having sex at age 21. So I also took a while for me to get to the point where I was even having like intercourse on a regular basis with different partners that I had. And then beyond that, like I had to grow into that comfort level. um and I think that as well, what I usually tell people is that like everyone's always wondering who has the most experience, you know, like, do you have experience? I don't have experience. I'm not that experienced. I feel bad because I don't have that experience. And I always tell people it has nothing to do with how much experience you have and everything to do with how comfortable you are, because the more comfortable you are, the more you're going to gain that experience. Like, if you are uncomfortable, no one is going to get any experience. It doesn't matter if this person had all this, you know, if this person is like their profession is sex, like that has nothing to do with it if the person who's supposed to be receiving that is uncomfortable.
yeah.
But if you are sitting there comfortable and both of you are sitting in safety and your calmness and you are in a good space to explore, it doesn't matter what you know. Your body will do the work for you. Like your body knows what it feels like to be safe, and it will open up and allow you to explore and experience things. So I say that it was just a learning curve for me for when I was very, very young, experimenting and trying new things and understanding what was pleasurable for me, and then understanding that it was okay for me to showcase what that pleasure felt like. Um, it was just something that I had to grow into.
I get what you're saying. I maybe asked you a question earlier. Like I want to ask you as well too. Like how many times you felt like you were super comfortable with a partner?
Hmm. I would say the majority of every sexual experience I ever had.
Mm.
Yeah. I would say that I had very few times that I was uncomfortable sexually. And I'm very grateful for that. I
That's
had
good.
very positive sexual experiences throughout my lifetime in general.
Mm. Okay. Okay. All right.
And yeah, I just feel like because I think I act on my freedom and I act on my pleasure most times. Like, I think I do things to be happy. And because I choose my happiness, usually, I think I attract people who make me happy or who want to please me in a way where I am not hiding that part of myself when I happen to have sex with them.
Mm.
Even when I was like scared to moan, it was not because I didn't feel good. It was just because I was fucking awkward and I just didn't grow into having a voice for myself yet sexually, which I think just grew with confidence.
Yeah. confidence and maturity. I get what you're saying. Okay, I like that. All right, what's the next question? I know you got to ask me.
Right. I'm gonna say, oh, for the final question, do you use your sexuality or your sensuality in your work or your art at all? And if you do, how so?
I mean, my profession, photography. I would say, all right. I'll say for me, it's more like understanding how to make women feel comfortable. So during my shoots, a woman's like, I'm not a creep or anything like that, but I'm more like, okay, I just, like I said, I read body language. I pay attention to that heavily. So I pay attention to that, see, make sure you're comfortable, your vibe's right with me. Um, so that way, when I take the pictures, when I take a person's pictures, they're like, it shows within the camera
Mm-hmm.
itself. So I'll say that. So using my ability, like my knowledge of how to make someone feel comfortable around me, I use that in my photography to bring that out of a person.
How do you say that you do that? What are some specific things that you do to make someone feel comfortable?
Oh, definitely compliment. And I'm saying let a person know that I want to make sure that every woman, anybody I take pictures of, you feel confident coming out my photo shoot. So whatever insecurities you think you have or whatnot, I'm gonna celebrate you. So that's part of what I do, and it's not where it's disingenuous. It's genuine. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
When I understand the concept of I want you to feel beautiful when I'm taking a picture. I'm gonna give you that compliment. I'm gonna tell you like you look beautiful. Don't worry about that. Like give like hyping you up. So I think I use that within my photography and my clients so that way they feel comfortable, super comfortable with me. So I think that's how I use it. Compliments, different things of that nature. So yeah.
Hmm. Nice. I love that. Well, I think that is pretty much all we got for tonight. Are there any things that you are currently working on? Anything that is coming up for you? Any sales that you're having? Anything about your business that you would like to promote before we end?
The promote. I mean, honestly, I've been focused on like other things outside of
Hmm.
photography that I've been working on. Like I said, my life mission, like different passive income. So, photography wise, like I'm still. I mean, that's always been my bread and butter, and I'm saying, but I have other things that I've been investing in that's gonna, take me to I guess that next level what I'm aiming for. So it's not necessary to promote right now. Obviously, my Instagram page, my website, but I got a lot of things that's coming up in the year 2023, 23 that's gonna take that next level. That's outside of photography. What about you?
Hmm. Okay, shout
What you
out to
got?
that.
You got to do a shoot when you come.
Yeah, I just feel like I am just working to save, pay debt, and reinvest in art. Like, and that's just the trajectory of my focus. And then within a year, or at least shortly after a year, I am going to relocate to Los Angeles.
Oh, really?
Yes. So
Yeah. That's a
it's
move, man.
just that is the pigeonhole goal, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
For
Listen, LA is a vibe.
Mhm.
Like, so I think it's like your energy and like me work with you multiple times. I think you'll fit right in.
Yeah.
Especially, I think you'll fit right in.
I
Yeah.
too. I've been to LA a handful of times. I think I've been there maybe about 4 or 5 times. I have a performance art group out there though. My sister also lives out there now. I still have some friends that moved there. I have some New York people who moved there, some Miami people who moved there. So I don't have a huge network like I do in Miami now, growing in Atlanta or in New York, but I think that it is definitely like not small at all. So I think I'll just kind of be, inserting myself where there's already a lot of opportunities. There's also so many opportunities for like gigs and commercials and modeling out there. So I'm looking forward to it.
Listen, you're gonna manifest. Listen, you're gonna be great out there. Trust me. You're gonna be great. Speaking to existence, manifesting to reality. You're gonna be great.
Definitely, definitely. I already know. I already know. I can't wait. I'm really happy that I get to spend a little bit more time in Atlanta because I feel like the lifestyle that I want to have here, I haven't manifested yet. And it's
Mm.
growing and flowing, and the connections are being made, and those things are definitely progressing. But yeah, I think that LA is going to be like a really good move after like working hard here.
Yeah, it's just gonna happen. I see it. I already see it for you, man. And what I'm gonna have to do a shoot whenever you come down to Miami. We gotta do that shoot. So I got you. That last one was dope. A lot of good response from that. So
Yes.
that's crazy. That's
Super dope.
dope.
Remember I told you I was like, I'm gonna repost this because I feel like it ain't get the love it deserved, and I know damn well it will.
Not
So
sure that
I'm
that thing that be happening. I'm like, oh,
mhm.
Instagram is cool now, but you already know how it works with that, man. So,
Yeah, it ain't really cool no more, but it still has its positive parts of it. But yeah, I'm glad that it reposted and definitely got a lot of traction. I'm definitely looking forward to like more fashion shoots. So definitely, and then
yeah.
let me know whenever you're in Atlanta too, because we can always do something here.
Now when we're in LA, let's see. Speaking to this, or speaking to this, when we're in LA, you're a big ass mom.
And the next time we're in
Shoot,
LA,
gonna do a fresh ass shoot. You hear me?
period.
All right.
But
So now, pleasure.
thank you so
That
much, Carlson. I appreciate you jumping on the call. Yeah, we can continue talking about this. We can also do a part two if you're ever down for that. So
definitely. I enjoyed this. It's something different from me. Like I'm not really like, you know what I'm saying?
right.
But like the conversation we had definitely like changed my perspective and I'm a little bit more open to have engaged in conversation I would normally have in private with other people. Like why not just have it continue? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong with it. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
it's important for people to just receive the experiences that men have about this subject on a larger platform, you know.
Yeah,
So I appreciate you being one of the people who chose to express himself and talk about his experiences. So thank you for that.
I appreciate it. I appreciate having me. All right.
Indeed. So I'll talk to you. Have a good night.
All right. Good night.
All right. Peace.